Hello everyone, amateur meteorologist FirstinWeather here. It is March 3rd, 2019, the official start of meteorological spring. And of course, this winter definitely was a disappointment for areas along I-95, the Midwest, not the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, and coastal portions of the Northeast. Definitely a very underwhelming winter after all that promise of a historic cold and snowy winter. So that definitely is disappointing for you snow lovers out there, me being one of them. Really was a frustrating winter, but we are now entering spring after winter's last couple of weeks of fighting. After mid-March, we should be in full spring mode. So let's get right to it. Let's discuss what's going on right now. If we go to the NAM 3KM model, look at this storm right here. We got some very heavy snow in Pennsylvania, northwestern portions of New Jersey, with rain in the warm sector below DC and pointing southward, and even some very heavy rain down south in Alabama and Mississippi. They had some very severe weather earlier this afternoon with multiple tornado warnings and severe thunderstorms. And so as this goes through overnight, we have some very heavy snow right along the rain snow line, which is a very wet snow, and then lighter to moderate snow inland. And so then that system will depart. Again, look at those very heavy snowfall rates. That will depart, and then we are left with below average temperatures for basically the entire week. If we switch to the FB3 model now, go to the anomaly charts. Excuse me there, sorry. But now if we look here, this is Monday, so 18Z Monday, we have that blast of cold air coming in the Midwest, and then that stays put all the way till about Friday before that cold air mass finally breaks up and we see a return to seasonal conditions and above average temperatures for the weekend. So if we look at the upper air real quick for this upcoming week, we can see that we have a deep trough over the eastern United States, all right, and that trough extends down, and then it's right over the eastern third of the country like this, cold air coming in like that. So definitely very below average temperatures. In fact, if this was the middle of January, temperatures would be about 10 to 15 degrees colder than what your actual high is on Wednesday. For example, if your high temperature on Wednesday is 40 degrees, then in January it would be 25 degrees or 30 degrees. So since we've gone late into the year, or early into, or since we're now in early meteorological spring, we're seeing those air masses moderate and become warmer due to the changing of the season. So again, for this time of year, a very significant Arctic outbreak is just being this time actually underplayed by the media because we are in now March. Now, as that goes through, we finally see the pattern break down. This is Friday, some more of a zonal flow with still some below average temperatures with that northwest flow right like that. But after that, the cold pattern completely breaks down. We see ridging over the weekend, so some nice warm temperatures, and then that nice classic flow that we've been seeing all winter with the storms going like this, right? Due to that extremely strong Pacific jet, or also called a fire hose, which has really been the reason we haven't seen much snow at all this winter. So that goes through. Then we have more troughing in the west, ridging in the east, so really what we saw all of February and late January. And then that goes through. This is March 13th, right here. After that, just more of ups and downs, which is typical for this time of year. And then after that, the FB3 has a deep low, deep trough over the eastern portion of the country. I'm not sure if I'm buying this. It's definitely something to watch. So for this, we have to go to the MJO forecast to see what's going on. And so if we look here, we can see that we are now in phase 2. The favorable phases for snow are between 8 and 3, and so that's why we are seeing that big low right now off the coast, providing that snow for coastal and interior portions of the Northeast. But then after that, we're going to go into phase 3, and then this model is suggesting that we turn all the way back around into phase 8 and 1. So it's definitely not out of the question that we return to a cold pattern after March 14th as we go back into that phase. But it's something to watch for sure, because right around March 17th, we go back into that phase 1 category kind of, and that's also when the FB3 has that deep trough. So if you look at some other models, this is EMON, we can see that it also has the same thing. that looping around. If only we saw this earlier this winter in January, we would be talking about a much different story. Instead of saying warmth and snowless, we would be saying record snow. So yeah, I think there's definitely potential that we return to a cold and, or not a cold and snowy, but a below average temperature pattern for the eastern half of the country after around March 15th. That's something to watch. So definitely, it's not like winter's gonna suddenly go out of the bud here as we enter March. There definitely is some potential for late season snowstorms, especially as you go into the interior portions of the Northeast. I think for the Mid-Atlantic, your winter is pretty much over now. So for you guys in DC, Richmond, Baltimore, your winter is pretty much up. But areas northeast of that, for example, Boston, areas just west of New York, and interior portions of New York State, this could be a late season winter, especially from March 15th to March 25th, when that MJO gets back in that favorable phase. And again, that is if this verifies. Models have been showing this looping around for quite some time, so I am pretty confident that a loop will happen. But again, there's always potential for change. For example, the NAO was being shown as turning negative for the past 3 months. It never happened. The NAO stayed pretty much positive the entire winter. So again, this is just speculation. If I was a betting man, I would say the MJO will turn back around, and we will see that transition back to a colder pattern for the later portions of March, particularly March 17th through March 25th. So that pretty much sums up this short video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.